be honest, if it weren't for that blue color option, which is such a unique and interesting look, I would totally never consider the phone 4a, because the 4a Pro is better in almost every way. Now, apart from that aluminum unibody, for just a bit more money, you're gonna get a better screen, better gaming performance, and better camera than the 4a, which we'll be diving deeper about, so stick around for that. Before that, links in the pinned comment. If you want to check their latest prices on Amazon, click here for the Shopee price. And for more reviews like this one, get subscribed and tap the bell button to stay notified. So I said the 4a Pro's screen is better, right? And that's because it supports up to a 144Hz refresh rate instead of 120. Now, this should mean smoother frame rates for gaming. Honestly, I'm not really able to tell the difference visually, but the way this works for gamers is that there's this slightly reduced lag for faster reaction times when playing FPS games especially. And even in terms of sheer processing power for games, there is a huge gap. Using 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme, the benchmark for graphics and ray tracing in a very intensive test, the 4a Pro scored twice as well as the 4a, averaging around 13 frames per second instead of 7 frames. Now, I get it, even for the 4a Pro, that seems really low, right? But bear in mind that this is the Wildlife Extreme test, which is a highly intensive test with ray tracing. For games that don't use ray tracing, the 4a Pro and the 4a are going to handle them just fine. Of course, both phones aren't going to be as powerful as the Phone 3 with its Snapdragon 8S Gen 4 processor, also a mid-range processor, but just demolishing the A models with 30 frames per second on average on Wildlife Extreme. What is worth mentioning is that the thermals of the new A models are much better than the Phone 3, which got very hot after just 1 minute running the Wildlife Extreme test. It got very warm at the back and pretty hot around the edges. Whereas the 4a Pro and the 4a, even after a few times running Wildlife Extreme, they don't get as hot as the Nothing Phone 3. As for cameras, the 4a Pro has what Nothing claims as 140 times digital zoom, which allows you to reach in twice as far as the 70 times max digital crop of the 4a. But, of course, it's going to rely on AI to clean up the image, which I have never been a fan of really, because usually it looks very artificial and much of it is relying on guesswork, which means sometimes it does get stuff wrong, no different from blowing up a picture on your computer then cleaning up the cropped image with AI, right? But if it's just about the actual camera performance, in general, pictures shot on the 4a Pro are going to look a bit more vibrant and a bit more detailed than the regular 4a. Now, this also carries over into digital zoom territory because the 4a Pro uses AI-powered processing, which the 4a does not. So even at the same 70 times digital zoom, the 4a Pro has a bit more detail retention than the 4a. The same also applies when shooting in native 50 megapixel mode, which is locked to 1x wide angle and 3.5 times zoom. The 4a Pro's pictures look like they have a bit of depth. Even the sheen of the Headphone A's metallic finish in this picture looks more realistic from the 4a Pro compared to the regular 4a. I'm also noticing a cooler tonality, but that is something that can be adjusted in post-processing anyway. Now, for videos shot on the 4a look fine, but they look just a bit noisier than the 4a Pro, especially noticeable in low light conditions. Okay, I have on my left the Nothing Phone 4a, on the right, Nothing Phone 4a Pro. This is at 1x wide angle, 4K 30 frames per second. Gonna do a quick pan here. Okay. Now this is at 3.5 times zoom. Do a quick pan. Okay. What is interesting is that the front selfie cameras of both the 4A Pro and the regular 4A only shoots up to 1080p 60 frames per second. No 4K video. And really, the only difference between them using the front selfie camera for videos is that the 4A Pro looks more contrasty than the regular 4A. The front camera is locked on both the 4A Pro and the 4A to 1080p. No 4K video recording. You can do 1080p 60 frames or 30 frames, right? Okay, anyway, this is how it performs with video using the front camera in a low light situation. So if the choice were between the 4A Pro and the 4A, I'd rather pay just a bit more and get better all-around performance and other extras, which includes the Glyph interface, which is quite improved over the first version on the Nothing Phone 3. It's now bigger and brighter with bigger pixels, and I do like it for the Glyph mirror feature, which lets you take selfies with the main camera. Now, what's not an upgrade here is that the Glyph interface of the 4A Pro does not have that button at the back, so you can't easily switch between the different Glyph tools and games, and those tools and games only respond to shapes, not button presses. So no spin the bottle or rock, paper, scissors like the original Glyph interface of the Phone 3. At this point, you must be wondering, do I actually prefer the 4A Pro to the Nothing Phone 3? Well, it's not cut and dry because there are reasons to get either one of them. Specs-wise, yes, the Phone 3 is a more capable device because it's got the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4 processor instead of the 7 Gen 4. So it's going to be better than the 4A Pro at graphics processing and frame rates. Also, the Phone 3 supports shooting up to 4K 60 frames per second for both the main camera at the rear and the front selfie camera, which is simply not the case with the 4A Pro. So get the Phone 3 for better performance, and if 4K video shooting is something that you really need for both front selfie and rear cameras. But in some ways, aside from the cost advantage, the 4A Pro is also better than the flagship Phone 3. For example, the screen supports up to 144Hz refresh rate instead of 120. Its thermals are also much better, like I said, because when I was running Wildlife Extreme, the Phone 3 did heat up a lot at the back and along the edges after just 1 minute, whereas the 4A Pro stayed pretty chill. And the design of the 4A Pro definitely, in my opinion, looks and feels nicer than the Phone 3. If there is a Nothing Phone 4 in the future, and which I think there will be, high chance that it'll use a similar unibody design as the 4A Pro. So those are compelling reasons to get the 4A Pro versus getting the Phone 3. But as I said, the Phone 3 is still a more powerful, more versatile device. As for whether to get the 4A, well, I would say just pay a bit more and get the 4A Pro instead. Links in the pinned comment if you want to check the latest prices of these products on Amazon. Click here for Shopee. And for more reviews like this one, get subscribed and tap the bell button to stay notified. Also, click here for my full thoughts on the Nothing Phone 3.